We're getting to a point where Tom Aspinall very well could ruin the heavyweight division, and it is not his fault. So stick around to hear my thoughts on if the UFC heavyweight division can be saved. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. Before we get into the video, guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. All that good YouTube stuff really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content like members-only live streams and you want to support the channel even further, become a channel member via the link in the description of this video or the join button on our channel homepage. Thank you very much. Back to the video. All right, guys, so as you can see above me, UFC interim heavyweight champ Tom Aspinall KOing Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich just beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik this past weekend at UFC Saudi Arabia in a very boring decision win. And after that fight, Jairzinho Rozenstruik was cut from the roster. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to like, wow, was the fight that bad that they had to get rid of Rozenstruik? To me, no. What it is that Rozenstruik's been with the UFC for 5 or 6 years now. His paycheck is probably pretty hefty, especially him being at heavyweight, being a ranked heavyweight that's main evented multiple times. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is probably making $250,000, $300,000 a fight. And the UFC probably decided that the juice is not worth the squeeze for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, especially when he puts on fights like he did against Sergey Pavlovich. Now, I assume this was actually just a contract being fought out, like he fought out all the fights on his contract and the UFC didn't offer a new one. I think this is much more likely than them just saying get out, because there's a lot of like legal ramifications and certain contract stipulations about cutting someone unless they're coming off of a loss. So a lot of people are assuming Rozenstruik got cut because he lost. I think it was a contract expiring that didn't get renewed for the sole reason that he's making a lot of money and he's not that popular. They can use him for an Apex main event, but they have cheaper guys. They have less expensive fighters that they can put in those spots that'll probably draw more attention than a Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So there's quite a few things to talk about. One is this a message to the heavyweights? Have entertaining fights? Because Renato Moicano certainly thinks so. That's crazy. They cut Jairzinho 2 losses on the last 5 fights. I think UFC is trying to send a message to heavyweight. And I do agree with Moicano that that's what's happening, because the UFC heavyweight division is in absolute shambles, okay? I want to draw your guys' attention to something that was posted by Home of Fight in their broadcast channel today. So shout out Home of Fight, a lot of great creators that I like that are on there, especially Money Moicano has a podcast with them, but also Hey Jive Picks, Maddie Betts, and a friend of the channel, James Lynch, as well. Now, this was posted by Home of Fight on their broadcast channel, so shout out to them. I just want to give them credit for the breakdown. But they said UFC heavyweight division is so bad that Tom Aspinall could dominate it and have as many title defenses as he wants until he's 45. The latest rankings update has Don'Tale Mayes sitting at number 14. He lost his last fight, but was promoted after 2 ranked heavyweights were cut. I'm trying to think of who. Oh, Alexander Romanov left for the PFL. That's the other one. 2 wins, 4 losses, 1 overturned, yet he's still considered a top contender. And they even pointed out just how competitive some of these other divisions are compared to heavyweight. Marcus McGee at bantamweight, number 14, 4-0. Benoit Saint-Denis, 5-2, and he's only lost to Dustin Poirier and Money Moicano. And then Vicente Luque, 6-3, with losses to top middleweights like Bilal Muhammad. Middleweight Roman Kopylov, 6-1, only lost to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who is ranked as well. And then you also have in the top 15 at heavyweight, Janata Deniz, who's 2-1, who lost to his first ranked opponent. Number 10, Tai Tuivasa has lost 5 in a row. 4 by stoppage, and hasn't won in 3 years. And Shamil Gaziev, 3-1 in the UFC, ranked 11th, was finished by the only ranked opponent that he faced, where he quit via obesity, basically, against Rozenstruik, which is who we're talking about that got cut after this, past weekend. Where does that leave the status of the heavyweight division? Tom Aspinall himself has even called the division boring and that they need to move on because he was unimpressed with the Pavlovich-Rozenstruik fight that was this past weekend at UFC Saudi Arabia. And the UFC, honestly, the UFC heavyweight division is about to be in shambles once John Jones is gone, because that's the only interesting fight that we have. If we look at the heavyweight division, you have John Jones as champion, Tom Aspinall, interim champion, who everyone's waiting for John to fight. And then you have Ciryl Gane, who lost to John. Volkov, who should have just beat Gane. Pavlovich, who lost to Aspinall. Curtis Blades, who lost to Aspinall. Jailton Almeida, who is coming off of a few wins now. Actually, Almeida's been looking really impressive. And then as you can see, look, everybody got bumped up 2 spots. 3 spots if you're Shamil Gaziev, but at least 2 spots based off of Alexander Romanov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik getting released. And if you look, there's a couple up-and-comers that are young enough to make things interesting for a couple years. You have Mick Parkin, who's Aspinall's teammate, so that could be an issue if he keeps winning. And then aside from that, you have Spivak, who's proven not to be elite. Jailton Almeida's young-ish, but I don't think he beats Aspinall. And then the rest of these guys, Blades, Pavlovich, Volkov, they're a little bit older, or they've lost to one of the champs. Ciryl Gane, if John Jones retires, I'm being honest, Ciryl Gane is the only fight that is really there for Tom Aspinall that they'll consider. After that, they'll have to start looking at a Volkov rematch, a Pavlovich rematch if he can get more wins, Jailton Almeida. But who knows, maybe the GOAT, Shamil Gaziev, puts together some wins, and Shamil Gaziev, the blob against Aspinall. I think that's who gives Aspinall real problems, you know? That's, I think real problems for Tom Aspinall lay all the way down at the number 11 spot in the rankings, Shamil Gaziev. Do you see what he did to Thomas Peterson, dude? So scary that even the guy he beat had to leave the UFC, Rozenstruik. But I'm not sure. The UFC is going to need some sort of like revolution in the heavyweight division where we get more talented athletes, because the problem with the heavyweight division and 205 that the other divisions don't have is that in most sports, major sports, baseball, basketball, football, even hockey, all of those sports pay better than MMA and have a more like concrete foundation for youth sports than MMA. And so that's why the biggest kids, the biggest kids in terms of like size and the best athletes end up playing football, baseball, basketball, whatever, as opposed to MMA. That's what opens up 135, 145, 155 to be the best divisions in the sport, because you have guys that are a little too small to be playing most positions. I mean, like some of those guys that are 145 pounders, 155 pounders, they're the type of guy that could maybe be a college point guard in terms of size, or maybe they could be a shortstop or a second baseman in baseball, but these are not large people. That's why MMA is so great for guys of those size, is because the other sports necessarily they won't succeed because there's no weight classes in football. There's no weight classes in baseball. In fighting there is, and that's why these smaller weight classes are so popular, so talented, and so deep, whereas with heavyweight, absolute shambles. The only thing that's interesting about heavyweight is the possibility of Jones-Aspinall, which is looking increasingly more unlikely that it's going to happen, which means we're going to get Aspinall gone. And even at 205, I mean, we got Pereira, one of the bigger stars in the sport, but when you look at the bottom half of that light heavyweight rankings, I mean, for fuck's sake, man. Alonzo Menefield, Bogdan Guskov. I mean, these are good fighters, but not names, you know? Alonzo Menefield, Bogdan Guskov, Anthony Smith. Some of those are good. It's not as bad as heavyweight. But then when you look at these other divisions, I mean, yeesh, dude. Grant Dawson's really good. He's ranked 15th. Michael Venom Page is really good. He's ranked 15th. It's crazy to think about. Michael Venom Page ranked 15th at welterweight. Vastly different than who's ranked number 15 and 14 at heavyweight. It's just a vast difference. So we're looking at like a little bit of a heavyweight iceberg when it comes to the UFC, because once Tom Aspinall either fights or doesn't fight John Jones, there's not much left other than Ciryl Gane and a Volkov rematch. If the Jones fight doesn't happen, there's basically nothing for Tom Aspinall but Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov, which are infinitely smaller fights from a business standpoint. And then if the Jones fight does happen with Aspinall, the heavyweight division needs to pray that Aspinall wins. Because if a career 205er, I know the best 205er of all time and arguably the best fighter of all time in John Jones, but if a career 205er moves up, beats Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall, who are like the heavyweights of the future to a lot of people, especially Ciryl Gane was at one point, and Tom Aspinall is now. But if a career 205er moves up, beats Ciryl Gane, and then beats the heavyweight division's biggest hope in Tom Aspinall and retires, oh, heavyweight's fucked. Tom Aspinall's hype is infinitely killed if he loses to John Jones, because then he's going to just, if John Jones beats Aspinall and retires, they're going to do Aspinall gone for the vacant belt. And both of those guys lost to John Jones. So that kind of like diminishes the value of the heavyweight championship. And I think that the heavyweight division being like fucked long term can be delayed if Aspinall can beat Jones and leapfrog off of his hype, because then it'll change things. It'll be like, wow, Aspinall's this big star who's going to take him down, as opposed to Tom losing to John Jones or never fighting him. Heavyweight gets stuck kind of in this purgatory. So heavyweight's got problems, guys. We just talked about it a little bit. What do you think about Jairzinho Rozenstruik not being with the UFC anymore? What do you think's next for the UFC heavyweight division? And what do you think the status of the UFC heavyweight division is in like 5 years? Because we're going to need some new prospects real bad. Might have to talk about Alex Pereira moving up to heavyweight. So let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. All that good YouTube stuff really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content, become a channel member through the link below this video or the join button on our channel homepage. If you're interested in some non-MMA content from me, go check out my podcast, What's Up Bro, with Wyatt and Bo, linked below this video. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.